Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, July the 2nd. And as we like to do around July 4th, we'll be chatting with our good friend Frank Burke up in Wisconsin. We've done a couple of these before, and it's always so enjoyable to hear from Frank to talk about this very important date, July the 4th. So let me say hello to Frank. Frank, I always ask you, how's the weather in Wisconsin?
Well, Silvio, we've been living like Dallas for the
Oh,
past 4 or 5 days. We've had a terrible heat wave where it's been in the 90s, high 80s and 90s, very high humidity, and nobody likes it. It seems to have broken somewhat today, although the humidity is still quite high.
yeah, we've been in the high, I think 96, 95. Although the humidity is not as bad here in the North Texas area as it is in Houston.
Right.
In the Houston area, the humidity is awful.
I was there
I don't think the temperature gets as high, but the humidity is awful there.
right. Well, of course, Houston is built on a bayou, and it's like being in a swamp, kind
Yeah.
of like I've been looking at the pictures from Washington with the great fair for the 250th,
Yeah.
and I have worked in Washington in the summer, and you wouldn't want to find a worse place to live with the humidity and the heat.
Who was it? Ben Franklin or one of those men back then who no, not Ben. Well, no, this would have been much later. That once they invented the air conditioning, that meant that these people had to stay longer in Washington. Before air conditioning, they had an excuse to leave. So it wasn't Ben Franklin, but when it was
Oh,
somebody from more recent times. Well, Frank, today, as always, I like to chat with you about July 4th and just look at this great holiday. You have something you're going to share with us, as you always do, which is absolutely great. But uh, what stories do you have? I mean, my stories of July 4th are basically growing up in Wisconsin and the parades, and sometimes, the fireworks, which were so nice. Although everybody does fireworks now, and but so what? Any memories of July 4th that you have growing up in New York?
one very special memory, and that was of course, when I was young, there were most of the people who marched in the parades were from World War One, World War Two. They were the young guys, the
Yeah.
guys from World War Two, the Korean War. And we even had in our parade, it would begin in those days when I was very young with a convertible. And sitting in the convertible were some veterans of the Spanish American War.
Well, must have been very cool. Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite people was Mr. Sullivan. He lived across the street from us, and Mr. Sullivan had been a member of the 69th Regiment, the Fighting 69th, a legendary regiment in World War One. And this one 4th of July, I was standing outside our house, and my father had put up a flagpole, and because he worked for Sears, he got a flag that had flown over the store, and it was huge.
The
And this,
employee discount, right? He got it on the
yes,
employee discount. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and it hung down like the almost to the ground, you know.
Right.
But when the wind caught it, it was beautiful. And I felt a touch on my shoulder, and I turned around, and there was Mr. Sullivan in his American Legion uniform, and
Oh,
behind him that flag. And that
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 must have been quite a sight.
it really was. And of course, he took us over to his house, a friend of mine and myself, and in the basement he had like a museum
Right.
of his days in the 69th, his rifle, all the clippings, flags that they had carried into
Hmm.
battle. It was just
Wow.
just fabulous, you know. So
You wonder if his family still has all of that.
I
They
sure
probably
hope
do.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
sure hope
that's
so.
like a museum.
Yes, yes, and it's uh, they actually made a movie with that title with James Cagney, fictional movie, but it
Wow.
had some of the real characters in it. The commander was Wild Bill Donovan. And Wild Bill Donovan later was called on by FDR to start, during the Second World War, to start the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which became the CIA. So,
Wow.
yeah. It,
I yeah. My
and the,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say that I have two memories of those days, younger days. I mean, I have many memories of July 4th, but there's always a few that stand out. One memory is, well, the parades. Like you say, the
Yes.
parades were always a lot of fun to watch the people march, and it was just a lot of fun. I don't remember if we had, I'm sure we had veterans, but I don't remember how far back they went. So that's one memory. And the other memory is that there was always a baseball game
Uh-huh.
uh, that day. And after the game, sometimes they would do fireworks.
Hmm.
So that was, that was another thing, watching the fireworks
Yes.
and after the game. And now here in our area now, there are some really cool fireworks that they
That's
do.
great.
And
Yeah.
so you can get out and see fireworks. I mean, you don't even have to go anywhere. You can just stand outside your house and look in any direction in the sky, and there are fireworks going on in lots of different places. And there's always the kid in your neighborhood who decides to get funny and have one of the little, not the fireworks, but those things that flash, I guess.
Yes.
What are they called? The ones you're not supposed to have on July 4th.
Right.
The ones that the police doesn't like you to have.
Yes.
So they go outside and they want to have fun, and then pretty soon later, not too much later, you see the police car going by, telling the kid, "You're not supposed to do that, kid. I'm going to give you another. I'm going to give you another warning this year, but next year I'm really going to get hard on you." That kind of thing. But it's usually a fun holiday. At
It
least
is.
it's always been for me. Just a fun time. Or now this year it's kind of unusual because it's on a Saturday, right? I
Yes.
mean, I guess it's been on Saturdays before, but it's usually it's like everybody wants it to be like the middle of the week. But I actually think that a Saturday's better because then you don't have to go to work the next day
Right.
or go to
Right.
school the next day or something. So I think a Saturday's better because in that way, it's already a day off for most people, and doesn't matter how late you stay. There's also, I have memories of barbecue too. I don't know if you do,
Oh, yes.
of eating
Absolutely.
cheeseburgers and hot dogs. And in fact, that may have been something like that, may have been our first memory in the United States of July 4th. Somebody, whether it was our first or second July 4th, I don't remember, but somebody inviting us to a barbecue and
Uh-huh.
eating hot dogs and eating cheeseburgers. And, you know, I didn't quite understand the connection between cheeseburgers and hot dogs and July 4th. But I said, look, I'll go along with this because the food's good. So they must have a good reason for feeding us this. But I just remember that, how great, how maybe I got spoiled, but how great the homemade cheeseburgers were, how fresh they were, and how big, the beef patty
Yes.
was.
Yes.
And they were just, I don't know if people only made them on July 4th, but they were really good that day.
Yeah.
They were just absolutely, and the hot dogs, I've never
Yeah.
been a real fan. I mean, I guess I like hot dogs, and the only time I like hot dogs is when I go to the baseball game. But other than that, they're not that big of a deal. But they would make some great ones
Uh-huh.
on July 4th on the grill. And it was always like a little burn. You know what I mean? They would always burn
Yes.
it just a little bit, just a
And
little
some of them
bit.
would crack a little bit.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And there's always the different spices
Yep.
that they would put on it. And, so I was 100%. Never understood why we ate hot dogs and cheeseburgers on July 4th, but I never objected to it. I mean, I was all for it, because I thought it was so cool
Right.
that
Right.
we would enjoy that. I mean, not. I'm not sure if anybody knows the answer to this, but is there a reason why cheeseburgers and hot dogs became popular that day, or is it just a coincidence with summer?
I think it's a coincidence of summer. that summer is always barbecue season. And
Hmm.
what happened, I think, when the country suburbanized in the post-war period,
Hmm.
and the barbecue became a thing, all of a sudden, people who had grown up in the city in tenements and in apartments
Right.
could go outside in their backyard and
And
cook
cook.
food
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
if not an open fire, although some people did, but a barbecue grill. And it just spread like wildfire. And because, Memorial Day, the 4th of July, and Labor Day, the beginning, kind of the middle, and the end of summer, not exactly, but that's kind of the way it works out, were times when people got together with family and friends.
Yeah.
And because it was summer, that was the way to do it. So,
Right. And it was so easy to, not only in that you could grill in the backyard, of course, but another thing that our family found very impressive when we came to the United States was that you could grill at the parks.
yes,
And that was like, for us, that was something we had never seen that before, where people would actually go to a public park
sure.
and bring charcoal and start it
Yeah,
was just a whole new experience for us because we had never seen that.
right.
So, I mean, I just remember the first few times that, our family was kind of like looking at each other saying, we're going to cook in a public park.
Right.
And who's cleaning the grill, like those kinds of questions that you have when you're sort of doing something for the first time. But that
Sure.
was the other thing that people would I mean, you go out, and especially in Wisconsin, as you know, with these lakes,
Yes.
people on July 4th would go out to lakes,
Yeah.
and there would be all kinds of grills out
Yes.
there in these parks. And I don't know, that was a real good experience, I'll put it that
Yes.
way, to see all those grills out there in a public park and people cooking, and you're just kind of like going, wow, what a great country. I mean, I was, like, you know kind of, say, what a cool country. They grill at the public parks. I mean,
Yes.
that was another experience, that so yeah, I would say cheeseburgers, and later baseball games and fireworks.
That's
um that was pretty cool. I
that's
thought
the
that
whole
was
experience and
it
parades.
is. It is. And I guess in some places too, they read the Declaration of Independence, which is kind of cool too,
Right.
to listen to it. But this year, of course, Frank, there seems to be a partisan divide. And I want to keep positive, but it's hard to stay positive when you hear the partisan divide that we're seeing in the country, where it seems like all of a sudden people think July 4th is about Donald Trump. And,
Yes.
and I'm going, wait a minute, folks. It's, I didn't feel that way when Obama was president. And I found Obama to be more, at least I thought he was more divisive than Trump. And yet
Oh,
I don't, I never sat around saying, oh my God, why is Obama celebrating July the
yeah.
4th? Doesn't he understand? I mean, it just seems stupid for people to go that partisan about some. I mean, I think, doesn't July the 4th belong to everybody, not to one political party or president, Frank?
It certainly does. It certainly
Yeah.
does. And it's such a corruption of a
Yeah.
beautiful holiday to introduce all of that stuff into it, because it really has no part in it.
Yeah.
And people who are doing this are extremely they're troubled people. They're
Hmm.
angry. There's a streak of madness there. The way I try to explain it to people is the fact that if you look at anger, the source of anger, for the most part, is frustration.
Hmm.
People get angry when they're frustrated. And if you look at the platform, if you want to call it a platform, of the current Democratic Party, they're supporting things like transsexuality. They're
Hmm.
supporting things that are absolute open borders. All of these things are damaging. Some of them are against nature. And if you're going to believe in this, if you want to believe in this, you're always going to be frustrated, as if you wanted to believe that and little elves coming out
Right.
of
No, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. It's a partisan divide that I certainly never felt.
no,
And I didn't like Bill Clinton, for example, but he didn't bother my July 4th.
he's not
I
the Fourth
didn't,
of July.
yeah, I mean, I didn't like Barack Obama, but he didn't,
Yeah,
he didn't bother my July 4th. So it just seems to me that maybe I agree with you. I think it is frustration. But, if my mother was around, she would say something like, these people need to go to a psychiatrist and get Trump
yes,
out of
they
their
do.
heads. And now my mother would say it in Spanish. He would talk about a Santeria witch doctor or something like that. She would
Yes,
make a reference to, what Santeria is. This.
absolutely.
Yeah, my mother would say something like that. But I really do think that's what it's all about. These people just have too much Trump in their heads.
Yes,
And they just need to get it, to at least get Trump out of their heads for one day.
yeah,
I mean, we
and
got plenty of time to argue after July 4th.
yeah, it's this also this perpetual victimhood.
Yes,
They
yes,
want to be victims, and they want
yes.
everybody else to assume that they are victims. And we live in the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely,
How many
absolutely.
people, how many people would give anything to have one of the hot dogs or cheeseburgers that's being grilled here on the 4th of July? I mean, it's a symbol of plenty. It's
Or the time to be
yes,
able to enjoy a holiday like that. I mean, um, that's another thing that we have. We have time, we have prosperity, and people are still angry. Look, I think that they need, as they say, they need to get their heads straight,
yes,
because if you live in the United States and you don't realize how fortunate you are, then I'm going to bring up my mother again, because she would have a real problem with this. I think my mother used to say, "I tell you what, why don't you go down to Cuba for
yeah,
6 months and
yes,
tell me about your frustration."
yeah,
Um, Reminded me of a story, uh, back in the 1960s when it became fashionable to hijack planes to Cuba. Remember that, when they were
I
hijacking
sure
planes
do.
to Cuba? Yeah, one one I think his name was Eldridge Cleaver, who hijacked. I
Yes,
think that was his name. He hijacked the plane to Cuba, and after a while, they became kind of a nuisance for
yeah,
Castro. So he wasn't giving them a hero's welcome. I mean, he was just kind of throwing these people in jail and saying, "Look, I don't need you anymore. So stop doing this." But anyway, he came back to the United States and he spoke, or I think it was Eldridge Cleaver. I think that was him. He came back to the United States and he was saying, "Man, am I lucky to be back? Am I
yeah,
lucky to be back here?" You don't want to spend time in a. But anyway, I mean, it just seems to me that the people are immature. Let me also bring up something about July 4th, which I wish people would appreciate. I know you do, and you're going to read something for us later that I think will confirm that. 250 years is not a long time for most countries. There are countries that have been around longer than that, starting with the UK or France or even Spain or whatever. But not every country can say that they are functioning 250 years with the same Declaration of Independence that led to the formation of the Constitution that they still use today. I can't think of too many countries that can say that. And that's what we're celebrating, this continuity of greatness. And if people don't understand that, they need to go back to school, Frank.
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Because the thought that was distilled in that declaration, it became a universal document.
Hmm.
It was not just ours, and it isn't just ours. I think it expresses the hopes of free people everywhere, or people who long to be free.
Right.
And when you talk about the inalienable rights, the idea that no, rights do not come from the state. And then you look at some of these so called socialists who want to uh, take away rights from the people and vest them in the state. It's simple. It's atheism, is what it is. It's the fact that you throw away the whole Judeo-Christian ethic, and you talk about building something that can't possibly exist.
Right.
You're building on sand.
Yeah, I mean, it's ignorance, really. That's how it's. I think
Yeah.
you're right that it's built on frustration, but it's the frustration based on ignorance. When you don't
Yes.
know your history, then you don't know how good you have it,
Yes.
and so you become frustrated at everything. And the other day, I was listening to one of these candidates, the one who unseated or defeated a long-term congresswoman there in Denver.
Right.
And they were asking this candidate, this lady, they were asking this lady about 9/11. And she was saying, well, it was inevitable in the sense that we've been destroying all these countries. And I'm sitting there going, what is this? Where does this lady get her history?
Yeah.
Who's been destroying countries in the Middle East? Before 9/11, I don't remember the United States doing it.
Absolutely not.
I
Absolutely
mean,
not.
I'm not saying we didn't support Israel. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
But Israel was in self-defense. They weren't attacking countries,
No.
starting wars with anybody. But they have a right to defend themselves.
Of course. And the big problem is that there is now this awful, I won't call it a resurgence because it wasn't there before, but it's a political incentive toward anti-Semitism.
Yeah, well,
And
there's a lot of that.
that is absolutely terrible. I mean, I can remember, when I was younger growing up in New York City, the tremendous number of Jewish refugees. And as I may have mentioned before, when in the summer, you would see men walking around in short sleeve shirts. They'd have numbers tattooed on their arms.
Right.
These were people who'd gotten out of the camps. And it was, the memory was vivid. And the cry was never again.
Right.
And the thought that people who felt this way would be supported was just inimical to the American psyche.
Mm-hmm.
You could not conceive it would happen.
No, you really couldn't. I mean, it is absolutely, it's sickening, really, to see
Yes,
it,
it is.
because you know how we got here, and these people obviously don't have a clue. It's all about Trump.
Yes.
I mean, it is amazing. I was watching the other day too a little video of this guy who does a lot of political analysis, and apparently there was a segment in the New York Times that appeared where they asked a bunch of people to talk about the significance of July 4th. And it's like half of the writers, the only history they know of the United States is slavery and segregation. They have no other concept whatsoever of American history other than we had slaves and there was segregation. Yeah, well, there was segregation. That's true.
Yeah.
Nobody denies that. And we had slaves. That's true too. But my goodness, there was a heck of a lot more too than that.
Yes.
There was a lot more to the history than that. So it's frustrating because these people have influence, Frank.
Yes.
And they're winning elections, at least. They're winning Democrat districts. So
Yes.
at least we can say that. Well, Frank, I understand you have something you want to share with us. You always do on July 4th.
Well,
So what have you chosen this year?
I have chosen an excerpt from a speech that Daniel Webster made, excuse me, on June 17th, 1825. And the speech was on the occasion of the dedication of the Bunker Hill Monument, which stands in Boston. And Webster is a very interesting character. He was a senator from Massachusetts and considered one of the greatest orators in American history. Unfortunately, he came before the phonograph, so we don't have any examples of what he sounded like. But his writings, many of them are beautiful. And he wrote them himself. And those were the days before you had a staff to do speech writing. He's remembered by John F. Kennedy in the book Profiles in Courage, because he seemingly always wanted to be president of the United States, but he supported the compromise, the Missouri Compromise, because and he lost his reputation because that included the Fugitive Slave Act, but he did it and threw away his chances simply because he believed in the Union and felt that eventually we'll solve these problems, but for right now we have to preserve the Union. And it was a great act of courage for him to do that personally. So he was he's remembered as a great speaker, a great orator, and really a great influence on our literature in what he wrote. He's also a great lawyer. So what I'm doing is I'll update this little part from the speech, because he mentions that we have 24 states, and now we have a few more than that. But I will do this for the holiday. Let the sacred obligations which have devolved on this generation and on us sink deep into our hearts. The great trust now descends to our hands. Let us apply ourselves to that which is presented to us as our appropriate object. There remains to us a great duty of defense and preservation, and there is open to us also a noble pursuit to which the spirit of the times strongly invites us. Our proper business is improvement. Let our age be the age of improvement. In a day of peace, let us advance the arts of peace and the works of peace. Let us develop the resources of our land, call forth its powers, build up its institutions, promote all its great interests, and see whether we also, in our day and generation, may not perform something worthy to be remembered. Let us cultivate a true spirit of union and harmony. In pursuing the great objects which our condition points out to us, let us act under a settled conviction and an habitual feeling that these 50 states are one country. Let our conceptions be enlarged to the circle of our duties. Let us extend our ideas over the whole of the vast field in which we are called to act. Let our object be our country, our whole country, and nothing but our country. And by the blessing of God, may that country itself become a vast and splendid monument, not of oppression and terror, but of wisdom, of peace, and of liberty, upon which the world may gaze with admiration forever.
And you said that was 1819 when he wrote that?
1825.
Okay. Oh, 25, yeah. So that would have been a year before the 50th anniversary of the Declaration. Right? 1825, you said, right? Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I think that he's got there's so much that he said there that I really love. But I love the fact that he's talking about our union.
Yes.
Because that's what it's all about. It's like our union. Now, of course, when he made that speech, what position did he have? Was he already a senator? Or?
He was a senator.
Okay. All right. Yes.
And, yeah.
Didn't he have who was it that oh no, that was in the House. The one who got into a fight with John Quincy Adams, but that was in the House, right? Where they had that fight. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, that was a different character, yeah. But now let me ask you a very, very, very stupid question. And I'm almost embarrassed to ask you, but did he have something to do with the dictionary?
No, that was Noah Webster.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay. So that was just a coincidence in the name, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
What do
whether
you
they would
think?
go.
No, I was going to say, what do you think? What message did you get out of that reading? Was it like I did, the union, that how important the union was, um, and also the reference to God? I mean, did those two things stand out for you like they did for me?
Very much.
Yeah,
And that and the call to duty, the
right,
fact that this has got to be accomplished by us. He was actually, in essence, in the first place, referring to the people who fought the revolution.
right. Because
And the
there was
fact,
a celebration of the Bunker Hill, which of course is a Revolutionary War event.
right. But we can, juxtapose that with the people who fought the Second World War
Of course, yeah,
and say, they fought for our freedom because
right.
they did. And they it devolves on us to take the great, great treasure they gave us and preserve it and expand it where we can.
Yeah,
So I think that's the important thing.
right. No, I agree with you. I think it was a beautiful. When did Webster pass away? Do you remember? Was it after
Boy,
the Civil War?
no, I believe it was before the Civil War.
Before the Civil War?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had a son who was killed in the Civil War.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I should look it up as to when he
No,
had.
I was just curious. I was just curious as to when it was. So he couldn't have been very old when the Civil. I mean, well, he's already passed away. But what I mean, he must have died fairly young then.
Um,
If, or
not.
was he? No.
I
Okay.
think he was in his 50s or 60s.
Okay. Well, today that would be considered very young.
Well, today it
Uh,
would. In those
yeah.
days,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
In those days, no, not so much. Well, Frank, I just want to tell you, as always, how much I enjoy celebrating these holidays with you and hearing your reading today from Henry Webster and just getting your thoughts about July 4th. Um, I just enjoyed very much, and I always think about you when the holidays come up because I know you're always going to say something interesting or you're going to share something interesting like you did this year. But I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July. I hope the temperatures are not. I hope they become more Wisconsin type
Yes.
temperatures, and I don't know what our temperatures are going to be here, but I'm sure they will be hot as they always are on July 4th.
Well, likewise, Silvio, I always think of you on the holidays, and I think about your parents and
Thank you.
like my father, people who came to America for the promise of this country
Yes,
and succeeded. They may not have become multi-billionaires, but that's not important. The important thing was they understood the principle of what America was and they contributed to it.
that's right.
So,
Yeah, they made the country better. Everybody in their own way.
yes,
And they certainly, in my case, they raised me, my brother, and my sister, and I think they did a pretty good job with that.
I think so too. In conclusion, I would just say, God bless you and your family. God bless our audience, and God bless America.
Thank you so much. The same to you. God bless your wonderful state of Wisconsin. I hope it cools off a little bit, and God bless your family as well. And I hope you get to see some fireworks July 4th.
Thank you so much.
All right. Our good friend, Frank Burke, up in Wisconsin, we always enjoy chatting with him around these holidays. I mean, we've done so many of these over the years, whether Thanksgiving, whether it's July 4th, Memorial Day, Labor Day. I always enjoy chatting with him. Always enjoy these readings that he does. They're very interesting and very powerful. Well, everybody have a good July 4th. And I hope you enjoy the holiday. And I hope you keep politics out of the holiday because there's no reason to bring up politics on a holiday like this. This is a holiday for everybody, for the country. And if you're hung up on politics around July 4th, maybe you need to go to a psychiatrist and get a certain politician out of your mind. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Have a wonderful July 4th. This is Silvio Canto, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.